Okay, I think that's 10 seconds. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is October 26th. This is a meeting of the Environmental and Energy Commission. Let's see, just a reminder, because of the remote nature of this, and Alex, if you can chime in if there's anything else people need to know, but because of the remote nature, anytime that we will be taking a vote, it will require a roll call just to ascertain who's voting in favor and against. And I guess we should start with a roll call so that we have a record of who is here.
Yeah, and I'll call roll. And Alex, did we admit everyone that was in the lobby?
Yep, everyone who was part of this call.
Okay. All right, Chair Wolf.
Here.
Commissioner Alt.
Here.
Commissioner Cesaretti.
Here.
Commissioner Feinstein.
Here.
Commissioner Hout. Commissioner Muno.
Here.
And Commissioner Parkhill.
Okay, very good. And we also have staff members, John Adler, Kate Emerus, Kate McManus, and Alex Ortega. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. So first order of business is approval of minutes of the last meeting. First of all, are there any additions or corrections to that meeting, minutes of that meeting? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Someone can just say so moved.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the whatever meeting, August 20th meeting.
Okay, and for the record, that's Commissioner Cesaretti. Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Muno seconds. All in favor. Alex, are you calling the roll call for us on this?
No, I'll be doing it for all.
Kate will? Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you can call the roll call. So this is on the motion to approve the minutes.
Yes. All right, Chair Wolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Alt.
Aye.
Commissioner Cesaretti.
Yes.
Commissioner Feinstein.
Aye.
And Commissioner Muno.
Aye.
Okay, great. So the minutes are approved. Next order of business is the chair's report. And I'm not sure what order this will come in, but I'll just mention a couple of miscellaneous things. Let's see, I was able to attend a webinar a couple weeks ago on net zero building codes. So it was very interesting, got into all kinds of detail on that, which I think dovetail nicely with what was suggested in the revised climate section for looking into that. Excuse my cat who's vocalizing here if you're comments. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting. I also was just reading today about something called the Illinois Monarch project, which the Monarch mayors is part of, but apparently that's being rolled out statewide. And the goal is what they call 150 million new stems of milkweed or other nectar-rich plants for the monarch, the goal of saving the monarchs throughout the state of Illinois. So I thought that was interesting. It just fits right in with what we've already started, and now that's being encouraged and brought forward statewide. Let's see, if someone on the staff can advise where it would be appropriate to discuss the sustainability plan timeline.
There was some feedback there, Julie.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what to do.
Is someone
One
dialed in and do you have two devices?
You should mute everyone who's not speaking.
Oh, yeah, that would probably help. Okay, I'll try again. Is this better?
Yeah.
You've muted
Julie,
yourself
you're muted.
now, Julie. Oh, the joys of Zoom calls.
Seriously. Chair Wolf, just so you know, you are muted right now. And if I recall from previous meetings, she uses an iPad for her meetings. Do we know, is the mute button, does it show up on the screen for her? Kate, you are muted as well.
It should be on the bottom of the iPad.
Okay, is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, there we
Okay,
go.
very good.
And,
Yeah, I
Commissioner
unmuted
House?
it, but I apparently muted again. Okay, so wondering if this is the appropriate time to discuss the draft sustainability plan timeline.
Yep, I was actually gonna, so during the staff report, that was one of the things I was gonna talk about, is just kind of go through the memo that I sent to commissioners, just outlining the timeline. So, if we want to get into it now,
Okay, well,
perfectly
why
fine.
don't we sort of segue into that, because there wasn't really anything else I wanted to mention. So why don't we discuss that? And Alex, if you want to kind of summarize what's going on there for us, and we can discuss it as needed.
Yep, absolutely. So before I get to the issue of the memo that was kind of detailing the timeline, I just wanted to inform the commission. As of last Friday, Commissioner Michael Kim, has resigned from his position with the EEC. So he had the assigned chapter of economic development. So I will make sure when it comes to finalization for that chapter and that portion of the GRC spreadsheet, I will be in contact with him to ensure that I'm getting the most up-to-date information, and I'll plan on finalizing his chapter on my end. So just wanted to inform the commission about that. So yes, if you got a chance to look at it in your in the email that I sent out prior to this meeting, one of the materials included was this memo. It was called the Greenish Region Compact Memo, and so about 2 weeks ago, Village Manager Mike Brayman asked me to outline a memo that would basically just kind of put a timeline on the draft sustainability plan. That way we kind of are all on the same page in terms of when it's going to be reviewed by various commissions and by the Board of Trustees, and then also when it's going to undergo staff review, and then finally be incorporated into the comprehensive plan rewrite that's slated for next year. So as of now, it does seem like we've gone through at least all of the chapters of the sustainability plan in various EEC meetings dating back to last year. So that being said, I think we are in a position that we should be able to finalize all chapters of the draft sustainability plan. So I received an email earlier today. I think it was from Commissioner Feinstein that was asking if it was okay to get his materials to me by November 8th. So I think that would be a good target date for all commissioners. So by Sunday, August 8th, if you could ensure that you get me your finalized version of your chapter, and then if you could also get me your portion of the spreadsheet, the GRC2 spreadsheet, that would be great. If there are any questions on any portion of that GRC2 spreadsheet or questions pertaining to your chapter of the draft sustainability plan, please contact myself or any of the other staff liaisons, but I myself, I think, would be the good point of contact. I can, help you guys out however you need to. So yeah, once again, by Sunday, November 8th, if I could get all finalized portions from commissioners, that would be great. And then once I get that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile the draft sustainability plan, ensure that all sections are up to date. And then my goal is on Monday, November 16th, I'm going to send out the draft sustainability plan to village staff. So it's going to go through to all village staff. But I assume most of the feedback will be provided by community development, engineering and public works, and the water plant. So once it goes over to village staff for review, I wanted to err on the side of caution, ensure that staff have enough time to review it and provide adequate feedback. So we are going to actually plan on giving village staff about a 2-month time frame from mid-November to mid-January to review this draft sustainability plan as a whole and provide feedback on various portions. Once village staff undergoes that review, what we'll do then is we will meet once again as an EEC or as the EEC. So if you are following along on the memo, or if you read it earlier, the second point I had mentioned. So following staff review, the EEC will meet in February of 2021 to revise the draft sustainability plan and incorporate feedback. So our plan would be then to review the feedback that was provided to us by village staff. ensure all edits are made at that February 2021 meeting. And then from there, we would prepare a final draft of the sustainability plan that would then go to the administration committee for review in March. And then it would end up going to the village board of trustees in April. In May. So the assumption was if we provide a finalized version to the administration committee in, let me just make sure I get my dates right. So if we provide a finalized version of the plan to the administration committee in March, we could then plan on having an EEC meeting in April to once again go over any necessary final edits. And then in May of 2021, the EEC would have a finalized sustainability plan at that point that we would give to the village board of trustees, and then following the village board of trustees, their approval and their feedback on the plan, then it can start to be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. So there are a couple, insured monthly meetings that we kind of have on the books, February and in April. And this is just kind of a general overview. It's possible if we feel as an EEC we need to meet more than, one or two more times in the process, we can. If we feel like we might need, a little bit longer to work on a portion after a village staff review or after administration committee review, we can. But I think this would be a good timeline to try to stick to, just because it would ensure then that we can get a finalized version of the sustainability plan and have it start to be written into the comprehensive plan next summer. All right, that was a very long tangent, so feel free to let me know if you have any questions. It looks like Commissioner Muno, you were about to say something. You are on mute, just so you know. There we go.
Okay. What I was going to say is that the draft that you circulated, when I put that together, there were a number of items that I just didn't have enough information, and those were highlighted in the various chapters in yellow. So for the people that are working on the various chapters, look for any of the little yellow highlights that might be necessary in terms of either refining or adding to the plan. So I tried to, make sure that people would see those areas that maybe some additional information might be needed. The other thing, in taking a look at the plan again, I found one additional item in the land section. I'm sorry, not the land section. Chapter 4 Chapter 4 is land. Yes, that there's a reference on page 20 to the Rain Ready program, and I had updated the water chapter to say that the Rain Ready program had been replaced by a newer program, but we need to get rid of that reference to continuing Rain Ready on page 20. So that wasn't highlighted in the draft that you circulated. So that's something new that I just picked up. That's it.
All right, I will make a note of that to ensure that, if it's not submitted to me in the finalized version, then I'll make sure that I notice that and edit it as needed.
Okay, thank you.
I meant earlier, Bill, to thank you very much for your work on this. I understand Bill and Ken worked through the climate section. I think you did an excellent job. I think it provides a framework. So thank you very much for your excellent work on that. I think that really helps move this forward.
Yeah, no, I think we now have the report is more balanced, and all Rebecca Boyd's material is still retained, but in an appendix. So we didn't delete anything. We just kind of moved it around. Same thing is true. Also, April and I worked together on the energy chapter. We got that, I think, to a level that is pretty good right now. And then finally, just to mention, Arthur had done a lot of research on a lot of additional waste-related matters like nuclear waste and incineration. And that material, because he spent so much time on it, I didn't want to take that out of the report. And again, that is included in the appendixes as well. So most of the work that everyone did still remains within the report. Some of it got moved to an appendix just so that the chapters are a little more balanced in terms of length, content, and format.
Yeah, I think that is great. The other thing I wanted to add to this timeline, I think it's really good, first of all, to have a timeline and to envision how this will mesh with the comprehensive plan. I would also like us as a commission to look at things we can put on a to-do list to start researching and working on instead of waiting, things we can start on sooner rather than later. And I'm thinking as we go through this meeting, things that pop up, we can perhaps start an ongoing list of those things and start working on that. Any other thoughts from people on that?
Julie, I did, this is kind of passing along a thought that our director of engineering had, is just keeping in mind that if any of those items that we want to focus on have a budget associated with that, that we get that into the CIP next year. So we would need to kind of prepare it in the spring and get it really finalized in the summer, so that if there are anything that we want to get into the CIP, we just get it done in time.
Yeah. My comment was that there are a huge number of recommendations in the plan, and I think all of them are worthwhile. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in there. But I think ultimately, as Julie is hinting, that we kind of need an action plan of all these recommendations. Which are some of the ones that are doable from both a time and budget and staff perspective that we want to highlight to sort of get a head start on. So I'm kind of agree with what Julie is saying, but I think the fact is that we have to sort of prioritize what do we want to do first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to go along with that, thank you for bringing it up, Julie. Just made me remember it. But yeah, so when I was speaking with Village Manager Mike Brayman regarding the draft sustainability plan, that's kind of what he was mentioning too, was if we could kind of outline like a 2-year working plan on 2 or 3 issues that we think are significant and kind of want to act first on. That way we just kind of have a direction to go. So, maybe at our January 2021 meeting after village staff review, it kind of might help us kind of just, get down to points of emphasis at least. So kind of having an idea as to what sections or I guess what specific issues we want to focus on first. And if, at any point, commissioners have an idea, feel free to share it with us. But yeah, I think identifying like 2 or 3 issues that we can kind of start to examine and start to move on, it's a good idea.
Is there an opportunity to do that before we get the staff review, or do you think we should wait till staff review?
I mean, anyone can chime in here. I do think it would be worth it to start to identify, areas that we would want to focus on now. And then I think after that staff review, it might help us, if a couple things were identified during staff review, that might be, it's just helpful for us. But I don't think we need to necessarily wait. If there's anything that's pressing, then, I think we can discuss it and start to move on it as we feel. Well, pending review of the plan as a whole, but if we want to start to talk about highlight things now, I think that'd be a good idea.
I think that sounds really good too, because also some of these things are really interrelated. I'm so pleased that there's this new organization of the whole draft, because I think things just flow and interrelate a lot more. So I think that would be great as we go along to identify some of those things. Let's see, is there anything else happening in the village? I noticed some activity at the New Prairie.
Yes. Yep. We had I don't know if you guys saw on Facebook, I think we might have put it out on Twitter and next door too, but we had an Eagle Scout who did his Eagle Scout project at the Prairie. He built us a couple of cedar benches that we installed at the Prairie at Lake and Laramie. And then we also installed about 500 additional little plant plugs to address an area kind of in the middle that where the seeding just didn't take last year because of our weird wet / warm winter. And then we also installed about 1,300 new plants around Village Hall. If anyone has ventured to the Village Center anytime recently, we replaced, I think, a total of 6 or 7 annual beds that are primarily historically planted with annuals. We replaced them with drought tolerant, salt tolerant, pollinator friendly perennials. So as of a couple weeks ago, some of them were even still blooming, but I think they'll really pop next summer. And they're meant to, basically have no supplemental watering required and attract a ton of bees and butterflies. So
That's great. I'll have to venture through the construction zone to take a look.
yeah.
Yeah. And, actually that area is one thing that I would kind of put at the top of our list to see if we can do a little more with it, because there's already all that momentum taking place. So that's one thing I would nominate to put on our, near-term action plan. So I think we could also start to coordinate with some other entities. The Park District comes to mind, and I know they are doing some things, but I'm not aware of exactly what they're doing. So that's one thing that I would certainly nominate. And that ties in with, as we discussed last time, the whole dark skies and all that, the whole idea of pollinators. So anyway, we're getting out of sequence, but I think that is good. Okay, anything else? Let me just mention, because I think I don't know where it falls in here, but we are now with the resignation of Commissioner Kim, who I also wish to thank for all his contributions, and he regrets that he could not be here tonight. But we now have a couple vacancies, and I know the administration committee just looked through the whole boards and commissions thing, and there's a push to get people within the community to apply for various positions. So if anyone knows of anyone who's suitable for this, they should be encouraged to submit a talent bank questionnaire, which I understand can soon be done online, but this process is pretty simple, because I think we have a really good group here, but we are now down 2 commissioners, so we can keep our eyes out. And I was impressed with the way the administration committee is changing things up and clarifying things for the whole process for recruiting and retaining boards and commissions. So again, I think we have a good group going forward, and I don't believe there were any recommendations for changes in the number of commissioners within this commission.
Nope, there were not.
Okay.
And it's actually, I just want to point out, the online TBQ, the Talent Bank questionnaire form, is actually available on the Village website. So if you go to the homepage, you'll see a featured news story regarding how we are recruiting residents to serve on boards and commissions. So yeah, it's there, and we're already started receiving several TBQs. I know we got plenty last week, and it seems like in the past 2 or 3 weeks with that administration committee review, we've gotten more TBQs, which is great. And I know I'm managing the online forms that are submitted through Google Forms, and I think I've processed 2 so far that I saw checked the EEC as an interested board or commission. So interest is definitely out there, and I know, yeah, President Belinsky will have his handful with filling lots of those seats.
Yeah, well, that's
human relations and
Alex,
housing is.
Alex,
Sorry.
could you just briefly summarize for us the 2 new commissions that are being revitalized and formed, just very briefly, so everybody's aware of those?
Yep. So they're not necessarily new commissions. They're actually commissions that were previously dormant. So the administration committee just did a whole board and commission review, but 2 of the commissions that really had a large focus were human relations and housing, just because they had remained dormant for a while. So to be tasked with looking more at affordable housing and kind of the initiatives that will kind of go hand in hand with that. Actually, Kate McManus is the staff liaison for that, so she might be able to chime in. Whereas HRC, the Human Relations Commission, just with the summer, seeing the civil unrest following certain acts of certain, I guess news stories like George Floyd in Minneapolis made the news this past summer. So that got village leadership to thinking about how we could kind of create a commission, or at least, re-energize a dormant commission to start looking at community relations and focusing on the issues of justice and equity and inclusiveness within our own village. So that's because these are two new, or not new, but two reinvigorated commissions. It's kind of we'll see what direction they take and some of the issues and projects that they're going to start working on. But we've seen a lot of resident feedback and gotten a lot of communications from Wilmette residents showing that they want these commissions to be re-energized and do necessary work. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for both of these commissions.
Okay, great. And I immediately saw a potential tie-in with what we're proposing in the sustainability plan, with sustainable communities tying in the Housing Commission, and with sustainable and protecting sensitive populations tying into human relations. So I'm thinking going forward, we could potentially, coordinate with both those committees and work together on all those things. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's see. Not in any particular order, because I feel like it would be useful to go through the new climate section. But before we do that, maybe we're a little out of order. I'd like to discuss the whole, let's see, we're calling it mobility. And Joel, I know you met with people from, is it Bike Walk Wilmette? Is that what they're called now? And you have worked a great deal with that and with the Bike Walk or Active Transportation Plan. So could you just tell us a little about your work with that, and then we could go on to discuss the letter.
Sure. I solicited some input from various people throughout the village, and actually this segues nicely talking about the other commissions, because the Transportation Commission, if that's what it's called, has just issued a report recently, and I think that we should support that report, and in fact maybe even include it by reference into our report, because they've done a tremendous amount of work, all of which doesn't need to be duplicated in the mobility chapter. So I wanted to update mobility chapter to include some of that stuff, as well as some of the stuff that they didn't have in there, like walkability and other mobility issues with people maybe in wheelchairs or scooters, things of that nature. So that being said, since they just passed this thing, and keep in mind, this is a planning document. This is not something that is going to be the way that they say it is. And there was a little bit of controversy around it when they presented it, particularly about the crossing of the Edens Expressway. None of that stuff is a done deal, but I think that we should show our support for their work and include it by reference. And so the idea was maybe we could have a letter that we could sign on to the commissioners from the EEC, and pass this on to the trustees in support of their document. So that said, I presented a letter here that I think maybe needs to be tweaked, especially in the second to last paragraph where I say to take out the last by reference in there, but essentially just gives just a brief overview of the work that they've done and throw our support behind it. So I was hoping that I could get the support of the rest of the commissioners to sign off on this thing and send it to the Board of Trustees. So, Julie, I probably should have talked to you about this prior, but instead of surprising you with it, but
Oh, no, it's fine, because I knew you were working with them because they had contacted me to get your contact information.
it's a
So
small batch.
I was well aware you're working on it, and I'm glad to hear you were. I read through the document, and I thought it was very, very well done myself. I don't know if the rest of you have had a chance to read through it, or if you have any questions. If so, I'm sure Joel could answer those for you if there's anything.
I read through it back in August. I'm not sure that I remember the whole document, but they did spend a lot of time doing outreach to the community. They did community engagement, and then they made a bunch of recommendations. This was done by a civil engineering consulting firm, Civil Tech, in conjunction with the Active Transportation Alliance, I think it is.
One thing that impressed me was the way it outlined, I know it's a civil engineering term, but you could tell they had done origin and destination studies big time. You could really see where the routes were that would get kids to school, get people to the places they need to be. And it also struck me as a document that really sets things up for when there are grant opportunities that come up. This would be already like, oh, here, we have this plan. We'd like a grant to do this. I thought it was very well done in that way, because I know the way these things pop up sometimes, like for a good example of this, I think, is for the proposed bike path that would be along near Laramie, where there's the railroad right of way. There had been attempted funding for like 15 years, and finally through Invest in Cook, we received funding along with other communities as a consortium for the preliminary engineering. And that one just popped up, and we were ready to go with it. So that's one thing that really impressed me with this. It seemed to take into account all forms of mobility throughout the village and have things, ready to roll for grant opportunities. And Arthur, you seem to have your hand up. Did you want to comment? You are muted, by the way.
Arthur, you're on mute, so we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
How about that?
That's good.
Is Arthur's video on? Because I'm not seeing it.
Now the image is gone.
Yeah, I think you flipped your camera around. There we go.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
all right. So I had not read the document previously. So I searched it, found it using Google. The first thing that struck me is that it's 170 pages long. And it's been revised. It's been subject to public meetings and commentary. There's been a separate private company consulting. So they've put a huge amount of work into this. And this commission is a group of remarkably capable persons. But to me, signing on to the document, not having studied it, is similar to signing a blank check, and that's something I don't do. And so to put the prestige, whatever it may be, of this commission behind that report when I haven't read it, how many others have read it? 170 pages. Well, two out of 8 on the commission. So my proposal is that we table it in respect to Joel, because otherwise I wouldn't sign a blank check and I'd have to vote no. And a motion to table, which I make now, has precedence over a motion to vote on accepting that report and endorsing it.
I think that's fair. I would accept that motion. I don't know when we're going to meet again.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Who is speaking?
I can hear you, Joel. You're not.
Yeah,
muted.
your audio is okay.
Arthur, this is Joel Feinstein.
Okay.
So I would accept I would accept your you're wanting to table this in time to review it. I don't know when we're going to meet again, but I think it's fine. I think to be able to review it. I think this is going up to the what's the schedule on this one, Alex? Do you know when this is going up to the Board of Trustees, or is it already up there for their review and voting?
You're muted, Alex.
Gosh darn it! I believe the next action for the active bike and the master transportation plan. I think it's going to municipal services, which.
No, it was approved by the MSC on the 29th of September, and now the next step is for it to go to the full village board. I don't know that is, we know when that's going to the village board yet.
Okay. And I can look into that, and I can provide that info. Also, I just wanted to make a quick comment. While we're waiting for village staff to review the draft sustainability plan, there's absolutely nothing stopping us from meeting again. So if we wanted to conduct meetings in that time to, to have a vote on the plan as a whole, we could do that. So don't think that, we're not able to meet while village staff is reviewing the draft sustainability plan.
Okay, that sounds good. And we're a little out of order, but I think it's not so bad doing that. Another thing I'd like us to think about doing is, I think it has worked really well to do the Google or the doodle poll. I think that has been very successful because we can identify some times, and you guys have given us a whole bunch of times. But if everybody can think in the back of your minds, the best way to schedule meetings going forward, I kind of like the doodle poll with, I know what we did this fall was we set up a series of meetings. I kind of like that, but the other way we could do it is we'd say we'd meet the second Monday of every month or something like that. So if everybody wants to just give that a little bit of thought, because it sounds like we will have some more meetings coming up, and I'm sure we'll be able to work something out that works for everybody.
Yep.
Okay, so sticking with parliamentary procedure, there has been a motion and is to table. Is there a second? Okay, Joel is seconding.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, and I guess we can have discussion if we want. Does anybody have any comments on the motion?
I have a comment.
Sure.
Is there a very pressing reason as to why the EEC should express our support for the master bike and active transportation plan? Is there a question in someone's mind that it is not, that it's going to be difficult to be approved by the trustees, such that we should spend the time to review it and, provide our backing towards it?
I don't know where the trustees stand on this issue, but I would say that we do have a whole chapter outlined on mobility, which includes transportation, which includes bicycling around the village. So I think it's an important part of what we're doing, and I would also like to include that document by reference and let at least two of us have read it and support it. And so I think it's important also that we should let the trustees know that we support it as well. And the only urgency I would say is that it would be nice to let them know that prior to their voting on it, that we concur with what they're doing.
Joel, this is Bill. Just to follow up on what you said, in terms of the mobility chapter, I think you definitely should include that as a reference in our report, our plan. But also, I think it would be a good idea to highlight some of the key points maybe in the introduction. So I think it would be good to give maybe a sort of a Cliff Notes summary of some of the key elements of the plan in the introduction to our mobility chapter, and then certainly insert it as a reference in the back.
Right.
Of the chapter, yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to do what you've spent so much time now taking stuff out of the chapters and putting it in an appendix. Certainly, we can add some of that in there, and references in the spreadsheet. I've got a hyperlink to the document and to the map that goes along with the document. So.
Well, I'm not suggesting that you insert, 5 more pages on the plan. I'm thinking that since the plan exists, for someone reading mobility, it would be a good idea that they could have sort of a paragraph or two
Right.
on what the plan entails.
Right. Yeah, I plan on doing that and saying that and incorporating it also by reference in that. I don't know that we need to attach it as an appendix.
I don't think so, but I mean, each chapter has some references at the end,
Right.
and include that in there for sure.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so I don't know how strictly we need to follow parliamentary procedure here. Our options are, we can, if there's any other discussion, we can discuss it, but we can take a vote on tabling it. If we vote not to table it, we could go ahead tonight and decide that we would like to include this. My feeling is that if we do want to support it, now would be a really good time because of the timing with it coming up to the village board soon. It did receive unanimous approval by the Transportation Commission.
Is it possible that we could review by November 8th so that we could all have a chance to review it, but time is of the essence, and definitely, this is a nice parallel thread that we could all work together on. So could we all, by November 8th, when we're finishing our chapters, also review and provide our sign off?
That's a thought.
Yeah, it looks like, I'm just looking at the village board schedule. I don't think it's going to the village board tomorrow. And then the next meeting, it looks like would be November 10th. So if you could provide feedback by November 8th, that would work.
Okay, and in that case, if the feedback, if the consensus is through the feedback that we do support it, then we could go ahead and send the letter, since it's already drafted, send the letter then. Okay, does that sound reasonable to everyone? I think that sounds like a very reasonable way of.
Yeah.
Not clear. Did you call a vote whether to
We
table
have not
the
yet. We're
issue?
still in the discussion phase.
I think I can withdraw it because I agree with you, Arthur, that that it should be tabled. But if they're meeting on the 10th and Sunday is the 8th, and we could have a meeting on the 9th just prior, then we could submit our letter Tuesday morning of the 10th, November 10th, if we all concur. Is that too late, or it should be in the packet, I guess?
Well, is a meeting necessary? I mean, if everybody can state, yes, they agree with it, they support it as a representative from the EEC, maybe we don't need to have a meeting. So, and then, the letter's ready to go. Joel, I can help you wordsmith a little bit, and then we can send it off. So I guess if we could give our feedback to one of staff or to Julie or something.
Either works, Alex, for me.
Okay.
Open Meetings Act makes it difficult to communicate, but if anyone has questions they want to direct directly to me or to Julie, I think that may be a good way to do it, unless someone has some serious problems with it.
And then sorry to interrupt, when you are sending me your finalized versions of your chapters too, you could just, in that same email, you could include, your position on the plan, and then I can forward that information to Joel. So yeah, I would be happy to be the point of contact for that.
Okay,
okay, perfect.
Good. That sounds good. And as far as the timing of sure the village board gets a packet, but they also receive stuff just before. So as long as we get it by the 8th, it's no problem at all. In fact, in some ways it pops out more when it's additional material that they've just received just before the meeting. So the timing would work out just fine with that. Okay, great. Great. And, you know, I feel like we're also starting to set some precedents for starting to work with other commissions and all that, and starting to, you know, get a framework in place for working together on some of these things. So that's excellent. And I personally am very pleased to see that. I have been involved in that even before I was on the village board. So it's nice to see that there's a plan underway here. Let's see. I actually feel like we're making really, really good progress. I think it would be worthwhile for us as a group to kind of go through the new climate section. I wanted to also touch on anything else that has changed substantially. I feel like there's not, other than things here and there, I don't think there's anything else that really has changed that much. But I'm wondering, Bill, if you could just summarize kind of what you went through with this climate section, because our idea was that it was the overarching theme. And I feel that this really is great because it does tie the things together, show how climate is the big theme and the other things fit within it. But Bill, if you could kind of briefly summarize what you've done there.
Sure. Ken and I spent about a week and a half kind of going back and forth reviewing the material. And what we ended up doing is that Rebecca Boyd had a large amount of background information that I'm sure that she had researched during her longstanding career involved in climate change at the very beginning. And it was good material, but it kind of made the chapter a little unbalanced with the other chapters. So Ken and I put together a short introduction. So section 1.1, the introduction, is new, although the graph is a graph that Rebecca had used. And most of the material that Rebecca had in the introduction was moved to Appendix C. So we didn't take anything out. In effect, what we did is do a new introduction and put all the stuff that she had as her introductory material in Appendix C. So content-wise, there's no real change. It's just more of a format. It's to get the chapter, like I said, a little more balanced with the 9 other chapters in the report.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it does a really nice, clear job of showing, you know, the existing conditions. I liked the graphs and things. I think those really were very effective.
Yeah, and I mean, and Ken and I went back and forth. I mean, there were a lot of like little things, some corrections, some wordsmithing, some things that he wanted to emphasize. So I think by the time we were done, we were both very comfortable with the chapter as we have it now, as well as the material at the beginning of Appendix C.
Okay, that sounds good. Any comments or questions from anybody else?
Julie, this is Joel Feinstein. I'm just wondering about the 2 yellowed areas there on page 17 of the PDF, where it starts with I think it's 1.4.9 D.
Point 8 and 9.
9, yeah.
Yeah, look at 1.4.8. She wants to, or Rebecca recommended setting a goal for waste reduction, and the same thing on 1.4.9 in terms of you know, creating parkways to native habitat. And, you know, I don't know if, I mean, I didn't have any ideas of, you know, again, if we could make those commitments now, or even if we could, what would be the numbers to use?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting for like 1.4.8A, they're talking about, you know, X% of reclaimed material. Actually, LEED standards specify percent of reclaimed material and all that. And I kind of think rather than us specifying it, elsewhere it's suggested that LEED platinum or equivalent is the standard for building. And I think that is a cleaner way of doing it than us specifying it separately here.
I would say it's fine to take the numbers from LEED, but I wouldn't reference LEED if it was up to me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because LEED is just one standard, and actually Green Globes is being used a lot, and it does many similar things. LEED is more suitable for some types of buildings. It's a name that I think people know more, and I think there are some other standards too. I believe it says LEED platinum or equivalent. So
Doesn't this matter how developed of an area we're talking about? And Wilmette's fairly developed, especially if you don't include the park districts, which I don't know that we can really speak for the park districts. I don't know, maybe we can.
Yeah, I think we can have a goal of working with them, but I don't think we can speak for them, really.
Yeah, we probably can't even speak for the Board of Trustees.
Well,
But
I think we can recommend goals for the village, and then we'll work together to finalize those goals.
But since we are a relatively developed area, it's hard to compare us to, you know, somewhere in McHenry County or something. And so,
yeah,
that I want to bring your attention to 1.4.9 item B. There is like an XX there. It looks like it's not highlighted, but it looks like it is.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Very good. Thanks for catching that.
But that is kind of along the lines of what Commissioner Feinstein is saying, is that maybe, you know, in order to plant trees, you have to have space to plant trees.
yes.
So putting a specific goal of a number of trees to plant every year maybe isn't, one thing that we did actually add, an activity measure that we added to the budget this year was a ratio of trees removed versus trees planted. So that might be a suggestion of setting a goal as a ratio instead.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I noticed elsewhere there were ratios of 70% native plantings, and that's a nice specific thing that you can measure. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, there's also in part D, it's saying restore X% of net acreage. And there are times when I'm the biggest proponent ever of native plants, but there are times when it's not so practical too. Whereas other goals like emphasizing restoring native habitat, that resonates with other things we're talking about, and reducing urban heat islands, one of my favorite topics. So yeah, I guess I would suggest, as we were discussing, taking out some of those specific percentages and having more of a general goal. And that's something too, that as we get staff feedback, I was not aware of what Kate had mentioned, that there's the, you know, the percentage or the proportion, but if that's already in practice, that seems like it would, and that furthers this goal, it seems to me that makes a lot of sense.
You know, Ken isn't on tonight, but hearing this discussion, I will take the responsibility of kind of converting those to sort of more
Okay.
General
That sounds good.
descriptives rather than, you know, having it be an exact number. So I'll do
Okay.
that, and I'll get that to Alex.
Okay. Well, good. And, you know, I think this process gives us a taste of the type of feedback we might get and the nature of some of the changes we might get once we get the staff feedback. So I think that's very good. let's see, any other thoughts or discussion points on this? There are lots of references. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And I did read through everything again tonight. Is there anyone else who made any substantive changes in their section that they'd like to highlight or discuss at this point? Because it looked to me as though it was pretty much what we had discussed before. Okay, so at this point, I think we would be looking at just, again, summarizing what our to-do list is between now and November 8th. So anybody like me who has not completed their spreadsheet can do that. And Alex, you're the one we send those to, correct?
Correct, yep.
Okay, great. So no later than November 8th for those. And we will
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to note, I emailed Bridget Berger, our Director of Engineering, that the master bike plan is not expected to go to the village board until Q1 of next year.
Oh,
so
okay.
There is no rush. We don't have to review it and get the letter done by November 8th. So we can give, you guys a little bit more time to review.
Okay, that sounds good. I wonder if it might be productive for us to try to meet, sometime after November 8th to start to identify some action items, and we could then officially give approval for the letter, and we'd have the letter wordsmithed for us to take a look at that point.
Yep.
Okay, everybody agree that sounds good? Okay, I think that sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry to interrupt. I think actually that would be kind of a good plan for for that time that we're waiting for village staff to get their review back to us, is that we could meet, however many times we need to, and kind of focus on specific issues for that action plan then. For instance, I know Trustee Plunkett told Assistant Village Manager Eric Hallgren that she has interest in learning more about green energy. So if we identify, green energy options as kind of one of the points that we wanted to really focus on, then, we could have a meeting that's kind of pertaining to that. And I know, we have a couple people, not part of the commission, waiting on the call, but Karen Gledmeyer of Go Green Wilmette, she provided me a really great resource that kind of had a summary of a lot of the research that Go Green Wilmette conducted on RECs and kind of just green energy. So yeah, I think, while staff is reviewing, the commission doesn't need to be dormant. We can continue to meet and focus on specific issues here and there.
Okay, that sounds great.
What are we thinking for another meeting, like early December, first couple weeks in December?
Yeah, I think that would probably be good.
Okay.
And I know my calendar is very empty. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm not going anywhere. Or any parties or anything. Okay, well, that sounds great. And that's good to know about the green energy options, because I can tell you from when I was on the village board, it's really complicated, but a lot of people have done research and there's a lot of good information about it. And so I think that's a good thing to delve into. Okay, let's see. Public comment? Or actually, do we adjourn first and then public comment?
No.
Public comment first.
Yeah.
Okay, if nobody has anything else to say, it sounds, yes, Arthur.
2 items. First, did you suggest that we assign the second Monday as a regular date, say for November, December, January, February, until we get it clear? Those could be set dates. And then if it turns out that you want to pass, it's easier to cancel than it is to set up in short notice.
That's true. The thing is, in talking to staff and our experience, the hardest thing is finding a date that works for everybody, because people might have projects. I think for this next one, the best bet is to have Kate circulate a bunch of dates, because I think what you've done is you find out what dates work for you, you staff people, and then give us a list of those. So I think for now, probably that's our best bet for this next meeting, but then we can think going forward in the new year, whether we want to do it that way or have a set date. So yeah, I think that's kind of our consensus, that that'll be our best bet going forward.
Julie, is the target date sometime in like early or mid-November for another meeting? Am I understanding that correctly?
I think given that Thanksgiving comes in there and we're getting the stuff to Alex November 8th, I think we were thinking like very early December.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look at the other meeting schedules and then talk to staff, and I'll get some dates out to you all for the first 2 weeks in December.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, because I feel like we've gotten a pretty good turnout, because, you know, you're able to see who can make it and who can't, so that's good. Yep. Okay,
Then
in that case.
the second subject,
Yeah,
yes, I've received in the mail literature from 2 companies that state that they can provide solar energy, get solar credits, and then that would appear on our bill. We would pay them 80% of the solar credits, so that we would have a net savings of 20% of the solar credit that's accrued by using solar energy fed into the electrical energy provider, which I guess is Commonwealth Edison, ComEd around here. So is that a subject that the commission should look into and evaluate and maybe recommend a way of using solar energy to replace coal-fired, fossil fuel?
yeah, I believe what you're talking about is the community solar project. And for people who, just for general information, they've identified an area in Stevenson County, which is sort of towards Rockford, that area, to set up a solar array which would generate electricity. And because it's within the ComEd service area, one could subscribe to community solar. And I'm looking into it. That's about all I know at this point. I know the village is using community solar for some of the streetlights, if I'm correct. It's complicated because there are all these different accounts, but I know you're using that for some of the streetlights. So the village already has done some of that. The community solar, as I understand it, is individual subscribers, individual residents making their own choice whether to subscribe to community solar or not.
That's the way I understand it. The question is this a subject that the commission could review in further detail than an individual can or is willing to devote time and energy, and then make a recommendation?
Yeah, I think that very much falls under the green energy options that we were just talking about looking at for one of our next things, because within that there's community solar, but there's also renewable energy credits, which Evanston has been doing for years for communities. So yeah, I think that does make sense, and I think that's just what we were talking about with the green energy options that we're thinking about looking into even at our next meeting.
Yeah, Commissioner Hout, so if you were to look at Chapter 3 of the Draft Sustainability Plan, where is it at? Let me see. 3.4.8, develop an outreach and education campaign for residents, small businesses, and building landlords. So we do have some general language in there already regarding some like green energy options. But yeah, if we were, at our early December meeting, that's maybe something that we kind of have a focus on was, renewable energy credits, green energy options. So we kind of have a general, mention of it now in the draft sustainability plan. And then while we're waiting for that staff review, if we want to conduct meetings and kind of look at some of these issues more in depth, I think that'd be a smart way to approach it.
Okay, very good. If there are no more further comments, I think we'd be ready for public comment. And Kate, are you doing that? You're muted.
No, that'll be after today.
Okay, thank you.
You're muted.
Third time's a charm. Okay. We did not receive any, I swear I would have had it had teams down by now, but I guess not. So we did not receive any public comments through the publiccomment@wilmette.com email address beforehand. As of right now, there are no public comments that have been made on YouTube Live as well. And then I do believe we do have two guests in the call today, Karen Glenmeyer and Linda Kurtz. And I can see that Linda Kurtz is using the little wave emoji. So I believe Linda would like to provide a public comment. So why don't we start with Linda first and then Karen second, if that's all right. Linda, when you're ready.
All right, thanks, Alex. And thank you, commissioners, for all the work that you've done on the plan. Just really love seeing how this has come together and the great discussion that you've had. So, thank you so much on behalf of Wilmette and of course Go Green Wilmette as well for doing all that work on there. I did want to support the idea of having a regularly scheduled meeting for 2021. So if I could help, encourage that, that would be. And I also wanted to comment on the energy piece that Commissioner Hout just brought up and the discussion that happened there. And I think, Alex, you had mentioned that Karen had said some information regarding energy and whatnot. And of course, Go Green Wilmette has done a lot of work in this area. So we would be happy to help partner in any way that we can when you are ready to, further develop what the actions could be related to that. Just please, consider us as a resource, not only for the energy piece, but really, many other areas and aspects of that plan. Just one quick thing I'll say on the renewable energy and whatnot. There are different programs that are out there. So Commissioner Hout, I think what you referred to are the energy credits. That is different than community solar. So there's really kind of two different programs. And the community solar was something that really came about from the Future Energy Jobs Act. That was a major piece of legislation that was passed by the Illinois legislative body. And it's a wonderful program, really great piece of legislation that provides incentives for green energy and really enables community solar. So community solar would be, something that would be highly recommended because it really supports the green grid here in Illinois as well as green jobs. If you purchase RECs, that's good, but it's not necessarily greening the grid in our state. You could be getting those RECs from, a wind farm in Texas, for instance. So, it's really important to figure out from a contractual standpoint, where is that energy coming from? What are those fine clauses and things like that? We do have a lot of information on the Go Green Wilmette website regarding that. So, again, feel free to use that as a resource. One last comment, and I'm glad to see the discussion around the targets, because that was, as I read through this updated plan, one of the questions I had is, how would you go about defining those? So I think it's a great idea that you look, instead of maybe a hard target, can you put it in some sort of, ratio that to me that makes sense. I also wanted to mention, and I imagine Karen might as well, if you look at the land section, there are some targets as well in there that you might want to look at as they relate to the climate section, again, the discussion that just happened. So you might be able to pull some things from there up front like that. And that is all I have. So thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Linda. And Karen, if you'd like to make your comment, feel free.
Alex, just one quick thing. Linda and Linda originally was the author of the land section, and I'm not aware of anyone sort of being responsible for that chapter today. So
Land is currently assigned to Commissioner Parkhill.
okay, so Ken took that on.
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you. That's
Okay.
it.
Karen, when you're ready.
Great. Can people hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, great. So yeah, just want to echo what Linda said, which is
Can
hooray.
you show the picture of the speaker?
The
We can see you, Karen.
okay. So I'm delighted with the plan and so glad we have a timeline. I agree with folks who have expressed an interest in regular meetings. I think that would be really great, just as you start getting into the action part of things. So I would encourage that. Just one point of clarification. I am attending these meetings as a representative of the League of Women Voters, not Go Green Wilmette. I love Go Green Wilmette. They're my dear friends. I work with them all the time. And just the League, just so everybody knows who's being represented here. And just a point of clarification about the renewable energy credits that Linda mentioned. It will be great if the commission and the staff could really spend time doing a lot of research into this, because I know it can be confusing. My understanding from the research I've done is that the renewable energy certificates actually drive demand for renewables beyond that which is state mandated, so they can be a way of really pushing the envelope, beyond what all the wonderful things in the Future Energy Jobs Act have already mandated. So I would love to see us really dive into that and figure out what the best way is to have the greatest impact. And then I'm wondering if I could just ask the commission a question, or maybe this is something that you all are going to talk about going forward, but when you talk about a to-do list and an action list, could you give us a sense of what that looks like? What is the role that you see the EEC playing in terms of, helping the plan actually go into action? Is that appropriate to do that now, or could that be on the agenda for a future meeting, or do people feel like they have a clear sense of, what role the EEC plays vis-a-vis the board and on the ground work? So, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
I'll start off and, feel free to jump in as you guys feel necessary. First and foremost, sorry, Karen, I think that's the second time I've misidentified the group that you're representing, so apologies about that. But yeah, I think it's a good question. I think, as of right now, it's clear the EEC can only, we're serving as an advisory board, so that we can only, bring recommendations to the village board for their consideration. But, I think that's a discussion worth having, possibly focusing on in our next meeting. I think it also really just depends on that action step. So, if we decided to focus on renewable energy credits and community solar programs for an early December meeting, then that could be kind of like a point of discussion, is basically, well, we've now presented this research. What do we want to do next? Do we want to provide like a hub of information on the village website, and try to publicize that to residents? So I think that's kind of something that we could later determine. As of now, I guess all I would say is right now everything is just serving as an advisory. So just points of order for village leadership, village staff, and then the board of trustees to consider. So I think that is a question that would be worth more discussion at future meetings. And if anyone else feels like they want to chime in, feel free.
Well, Alex,
I'll
just
try.
additional thought that
Go
we
ahead.
said that, we would try to sort of prioritize some of the recommendations. So to some degree, it gets a little bit to Karen's point that of all the stuff in the plan, there might be some, items that the commission as a whole feels are appropriate to move forward. Now, that doesn't mean that, we're going to get funding for it, that the village board would approve it, but at least, we could make a strong recommendation that these seem to be key elements of the recommendations that we would like to go forward on. And Julie talked about, maybe developing a list of those, near term. So that's my thought on that. The other thing, just one piece of feedback to Karen, that she did a lot of research on the issue of electrical aggregation, the renewable energy certificates. That material, discussion with April, was put in the appendix under energy. So, I mean, if people are confused about it, and it is a little confusing. I mean, I read through it a couple times. There's a pretty good discussion in the appendix on that. So if we want to, have a discussion on sort of solar and energy credits in the future, Karen's reference material in the appendix, I think, is sort of mandatory reading for everyone prior to that discussion. So I want to thank Karen for providing that to us.
Yeah, I want to add my thanks. That's great. Another thing I could see potentially coming out of the things we're looking at in the near future is potentially some recommendations for study and potentially changing some of the village ordinances. All kinds of things, from potentially building codes, energy related, to things to do with gardening, tree removal, all kinds of things like that. So that, I think there's some potential for some recommendations along those lines, which would be kind of specific.
Well, assuming no one else has any input to provide, Julie, we still do not have any public comments on YouTube Live, nothing on email, and I believe all members in the call have made their comment at this point.
Okay, very good. In that case, I think we would entertain a motion to adjourn. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll
This is
make the motion
Commissioner
to
Alt.
adjourn. I want to watch the Bear game.
I'd be happy to second it.
Okay. Okay, so for the record.
All right. I'll do a quick roll for the adjournment.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Chair Wolf,
Aye.
Commissioner Alt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cesaretti,
Aye.
Commissioner Feinstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Hout,
Aye.
and Commissioner Muno.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good
Hey.
game.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.